Did you know that 17.4% of pregnancies in Colombia are from girls aged 15 to 19? Or that pregnancy and childbirth complications are the leading cause of mortality in girls aged 15 to 19 around the world? The reality of teenage pregnancy is completely heartbreaking. It puts women in situations of power inequality. It forces girls and boys to abandon school, and also it introduces teens early into the workforce, which means that a lot of times they work on informal jobs that don't even give them enough money to live. I honestly didn't know about this reality until I saw a program on journalism that I really love to watch with my families on Sunday nights. And that program really shook me to the core because it showed me that beyond the four walls of my home, there was a reality that was affecting people my own age. In that program, I met these two girls. The first one is Kendry. She got pregnant at 13 by a man of 22. And when asked if she knew what a condom or a uterus was, she had no idea. And then there's Paula. She's from my own city, Bogota. And to prevent a pregnancy, she mixes beer with 7 pills of acetaminophen. As I said, the reality of teenage pregnancies is completely heartbreaking. And that's why I decided to do something. I started by investigating about STDs, about contraception, and other important topics that often don't get taught at schools. And also, I started by creating a video to prevent teenage pregnancies in my own city. In that experience, I also met Andrea and interviewed her. She told me about how she had gestational diabetes, also about how she had to abandon school in order to sell newspapers on the streets, and then how she suffered from emotional and physical abuse. Together, these three women have shown me various things about the reality of teenage pregnancies, not only in Colombia, but also in the world. Actually, these are the three things they had taught me. First, that women are a lot of times in situations of power inequality. Actually, according to the DANE, an institution in Colombia, 99.2% of teenage pregnancies are not within teenagers, but rather between a teenager and an adult, meaning that a lot of times, teenage pregnancies are a result of sexual abuse. Second, that a lot of times there's a lot of misinformation and myths about sexuality that even us teenagers spread. And third, that we must rethink the way we're preventing teenage pregnancies as societies. Currently, there are a lot of things governments have done. For example, in Milwaukee, in the United States, they have released tons of PSAs with pregnant boys and have also replaced the typical snacks we're used to eating from vending machines with diapers and baby formulas to show us the cruel reality of being a teenage parent. I have also encountered multiple radio advertisements in my own city and have also visited the page Experto, on which teenagers can ask anonymous questions about sexuality, reproductive rights, contraception, STDs. However, although all of these things that governments have done have been effective, there's something we can do to be even more effective in preventing teenage pregnancies, and that is getting teenagers involved. Of course, I know teenagers are already involved in this problem. After all, it's up to us to get informed and prevent teenage pregnancies. However, what I mean by getting teenagers involved is actually making teens teach other teenagers. I know the effectiveness of this because I've actually been involved. Actually, 1 year ago, I got the opportunity to start teaching health education workshops to students from other schools in Bogota. We talked about bullying, stress, contraception, STDs, nutrition, and it was an amazing experience, not only because I got the opportunity to meet amazing people, but also because I had the opportunity to break any myths I could have about sexuality. And then there's also the fact that I had the opportunity to, 1 year ago, answer teenagers' questions about sexuality as well to various teenagers from Cibate. In that experience, I was a relatable teen these teens could trust in, as I was their own age. I worked with doctors, psychologists, nurses, and many other experts. And it was also an amazing experience because I had the opportunity to answer questions related to AIDS and HIV, to contraception, to relationships, and all of these topics that, as I said, don't often get taught at schools. However, for me, preventing teenage pregnancies is not only about collaboration between teens, it's also about collaboration between teens and adults. Actually, 2 years ago, Alison Hadley, the leader in England's 10-year teenage pregnancy strategy, came to Bogota and the government invited me to her conference. In telling us about her strategy, Alison said something that really caught my eye, and was the fact that her strategy used joined-up action. This meant that everyone, from the government to doctors to teens to teachers, were collaborating towards a common cause, helping prevent teenage pregnancies. And it was also really enriching to know that thanks to her strategy, they caused a reduction by 60% of teenage pregnancies. Amazing, isn't it? So now you may be wondering, how can you help prevent teenage pregnancies? Well, as parents, you can help by empowering your teen, by supporting them, helping them accomplish their goals, and also knowing how they're feeling at school. And of course, as teens, you can help by investigating, by getting informed, by knowing about STDs, about contraception, and all of these topics. And of course, I have to mention schools. They're crucial in this whole story, especially since it's up to schools to have a sex education curriculum that actually works and that teaches students relevant stuff. Actually, in Bogota, Luis Miguel Bermudez, a teacher, implemented a sex education curriculum which included and featured collaboration between teens and adults, and actually included, teenagers in preventing teenage pregnancies. The result was a reduction in pregnancy rates from 70 in 1 year to only 1. This is the biggest proof that having an effective sex education curriculum can really work towards preventing teenage pregnancies. And of course, that including teens does have an impact. So the message I want to leave you with is the following. We can't expect to solve teenage pregnancies if we don't rethink the way we're preventing them. Aside from what governments are already doing, we must all get involved. This includes the government, teachers, schools, you and me. After all, that way, us teens will start feeling much more comfortable about talking about sexuality and everything it entails. Thank you.